Come now to the end of Mark chapter 7, verses 24 to the end of the chapter. Just to continue on with our thought progression here, this is now an opportunity where Mark's going to share with us two miraculous workings of the heart where someone you'd least expect believes and someone struggles to believe, which is kind of an illustration of the disciples. They're still trying to figure out, is Jesus truly the Christ? That'll be answered in chapter 8. But for now, I'll read these two miraculous workings in the heart, if you will, and one comes with a miracle. I want you to have in mind those four questions. What is striking to you about this text? Where's the sin? Where's the grace? What did you learn to pray for? Mark 7, verse 24. If you're following along, grab your Bibles. You can pause it here, get your Bibles out, and read along or just listen in. Jesus got up and went from there to the region of Tyre and Sidon. So that's very far northwest, just outside of Israel, or at least on the border there. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know it, but he could not remain hidden. Instead, when a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit heard about him, she immediately came and fell down at his feet. This woman was a Greek of Syrophoenician origin, so not a Jew. She asked him to drive the demon out of her daughter. Jesus said to her, "Let the children be fed first, because it is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to their little dogs." "Lord," she answered, "their little dogs under the table also eat some of the children's crumbs." Then he said to her, "Because of the statement, go. The demon has gone out of your daughter." She went home, found the child lying on the bed, and the demon gone. Jesus left the region of Tyre again and went through Sidon to the Sea of Galilee, within the region of the Decapolis, so to the east side of the Sea of Galilee, northeast along the Jordan River. Verse 32 and following, another account. They brought a man to him who was deaf and had a speech impediment. They pleaded with Jesus to place his hand on him. Jesus took him aside in private, away from the crowd. He put his fingers into the man's ears. Then he spit and touched the man's tongue. After he looked up to heaven, he sighed and said, "Ephphatha," which means, "be open." Immediately the man's ears were opened. His tongue was set free, and he began to speak plainly. Jesus gave the people strict orders to tell no one, but the more he did so, the more they kept proclaiming it. They were amazed beyond measure and said, "He has done everything well. He even makes the deaf hear and the mute speak." One thing to note, just to make sure that we pick up on the illustration that Jesus put before the woman who asked for the healing of her daughter, and which she responded to in kind. When Jesus says it's not right to give the bread to the children, to the little dogs of the children, from the children, Jesus was referring to how he was first called to go to the Jews to give them the gospel of salvation. It would be improper to go to the Gentiles first, who are unfamiliar with that. Instead, it was appropriate to give that bread to the Jewish children of God and let them then share the bread with the rest of the world. To this, in faith, this woman humbles herself and recognizes it is true. I recognize you are the Messiah. Come to the Jews first. But do understand the Gentiles, non-Jews, will gladly eat of whatever bread and crumbs there are. Jesus was amazed by her faith and blessed her with her request, acknowledging that faith is the means by which Jesus would heal this woman's daughter. The interesting account next, Jesus had to become pretty physical with a man who could not hear. And so it's very vivid how he puts his hands where it hurts, the source of his shame, and even on his tongue, again, another source of his shame. And it does seem to suggest that Jesus was really struggling with his own people to understand simply by faith and hearing the word. And yet they needed tangible proof, it seems. At least that is some of the speculation as we study the Gospel of Mark. Last thing that we want to note here, again, Jesus, he says, don't tell anyone. Well, why is that? The misgivings of people's thoughts about the Messiah. And yet, Jesus knew that as he would heal and teach, word would get out. His time was coming. Very soon, he would be publicly proclaimed the Messiah and would live out the suffering nature of the Messiah as a result. So with that, ask those 4 questions. What struck you about this text? As you try to envision being there, Jesus healing and Jesus blessing this woman who was so humble. Where's the sin? Where's the grace? And what did you learn to pray for your life? God bless your family's conversation.